All right, hello everyone. I just want to say welcome to the very first episode of Inside Guns with the Yankee Marshal. Now, this is going to be my first attempt to be somewhat professional and somewhat competent and maybe even credible. So bear with me here and wish me luck because, like I said, first attempt at this. That being said, I want to go ahead and explain to people what's going on here. I explained it in another video, but I'm going to explain it again. I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to try to present my videos now in a more credible format, a format where it's more informative, less trollish, less satire. Now, I will still be doing that stuff also, but when I do the Inside Guns here, this is just going to be serious business. Now, I might evolve it later to where it includes segments from, my alter ego that are a little less serious and a little less, professional. But the main part of this video and the main reason that this series is going to exist is because, like I said, I think this is going to be the year of wins for gun rights in this country. 2021 is going to be an amazing year for gun rights, and a lot of people don't believe me, but I feel that it is something that is going to happen. And if enough of us get behind it and start thinking that way, I think it's even more likely it's going to happen. So this is going to be kind of a rallying point for people who want to have a positive attitude about what we're going to accomplish with guns this year and gun rights this year. That being said, let's get on to my first topic of the video. All right, the first thing I want to talk about today is something a lot of people are fearful about right now. With the new administration coming in, with Biden and Harris going to be the president and vice president, a lot of people in the gun community are extremely worried that we're going to see a new assault weapons ban and that we're going to see magazine limit laws. And I want to say to people that that is something we should always prepare for. That's something we should always be ready to fight. It's something we should pretend like it's always just around the corner. But as far as getting in an uproar or panicking right now about it or becoming depressed or despondent, anything like that, losing our desire to fight because we get upset or get too sad, I don't think that's the reality right now. I don't think we have to worry about that. This administration is not going to be friendly to guns, but their ability to limit guns is going to be small. They're going to be very limited in what they can do because Senate is still going to be at the very least, 50-50. Probably a Republican majority by 52 to 48 is what I'm guessing will be. Maybe 51 to 49. But even if it goes 50-50, there are still some Democrats that would never go along with an assault weapons ban because it would be suicide politically in their state or their district or whatever. So mustering the will to pass another assault weapons ban when there is just so much statistical evidence to show that the previous assault weapons ban did nothing, I don't think is going to be easy to find. I don't think they're going to be able to find a lot of people willing to back it very strongly. So I'm not really worried about an assault weapon ban. I'm not really worried about magazine limits. Right now, if you look at the courts, magazine limits are being taken to task right now. Even the Ninth Circuit declared magazine limits unconstitutional. And we're waiting for an en banc hearing on that and potentially a Supreme Court hearing on that. So why would they waste a lot of time right now passing laws that aren't going to stand up to constitutional scrutiny? I just don't think, unless they're just willing to waste their time to cater to the farthest left part of their party, which I don't think they're going to do right now because I think they kind of learned their lesson. I think one of the reasons that they didn't perform as well as they did, the Democrats didn't perform as well as they did, is because they gave in a little too much to some far left rhetoric, like defund the police. I think that seriously hurt them in the elections. I think they know that. I think they also know that an assault weapons ban or magazine limits would also hurt them in the midterms coming up in 2 years, which I'm sure they'll start campaigning for tomorrow. So I really don't see an assault weapons ban or magazine limit laws being something that's coming down the pike anytime soon. And if it does, I don't think it has a lot of chance of passing. And then even if it did pass, I don't think it has a lot of chance at withstanding constitutional scrutiny from the Supreme Court now with their 6-3 conservative majority. So it's something I'm not worried about, but like I say, it's something I think everyone should be aware of. So stay involved, pay attention, especially on a national level, but more so pay attention on a state level. Contact your local state organizations, your pro-gun organizations inside your state, and stay informed. Become a member maybe. Get on their mailing list. Just be aware of what's going on in your state. Pay attention to what's going on in the nation. And I don't think we'll have to worry too much about assault weapons bans and magazine limits, but it never hurts to pay attention. All right, now with that being said, I want to move on to my second topic, but first here I want to apologize for a little glitch there at the first half of the show. Had the wrong microphone turned on, had the microphone above me turned on instead of the one in front of me. Hopefully you can still hear me well, but like I said, a little bit of a technical error there, but as far as our first show goes, that's not exactly a huge error. So with that being said, let's move on with the second topic, and the second topic, unfortunately, here tonight is not quite as rosy as my first topic. It's not something that I'm quite as positive about. In fact, I think it's kind of a negative thing. And that is the potential we face in seeing some really bad legislation, not actually legislation, executive orders come down the pike to ban online firearms and ammunition sales. And like I said, I think this is something that's very dangerous because it's not going to be legislation. It's not going to be something that has to get through the Senate. This is something that may be accomplished by executive order. And that makes me worry. Because do you think Biden and Kamala Harris especially would love to do this? Yes, they would love to do this. Not because it would actually save anybody's life, or because it would have any effect on violence or illegal gun use, etc., but because it would disrupt the supply chains for firearms. A lot of people live in areas where they don't have a local gun shop. So they would be out of luck if there was no longer any online gun sales or ammo sales. Now, this is something I've been blowing the alarm on for a long time. I guess I kind of mixed my metaphors there, blowing the horn on or sounding the alarm on for quite a while. If you look back at my videos several years ago, I was saying, hey, this is what they're eventually going to go after, online gun sales. And like I said, the reason it's going to be so easy for them to do is because, one, it's going to be done through executive action, and two, because the public's going to be behind it. I hate to say that, but they are. Because they're not going to look past the little catchy phrase or whatever they come up with. Because all they're going to have to say to the public is, hey, every gun sale should have to be done face-to-face. A person should have to be there when they buy a gun. And people are going to go, yeah, that only makes sense. Just like they say, well, yeah, that only makes sense when you tell them every gun sale should have a background check. They don't think about the rights of private citizens to trade property with other private citizens without government involvement. They don't think about that. They just think, oh, yeah, every gun sale should have a background check. So I don't think they're going to have any trouble pushing through a ban on gun sales online, and I think they will lump ammo sales with that. And like I said, I think they'll have support from the public because they're not going to think about the reality. They're just going to think about that whole phrase, like I said, all gun sales should be in person. You should have to be there to buy a gun. They're not going to run through it in their head and go, well, that's what's happening with online gun sales. Because if you buy a gun from, say, Grab a Gun, that's not in your state, grabagun.com. Well, you're not really buying the gun from them. I mean, you're paying them, but you're not doing the transaction of actually taking possession of the gun from them. They send the gun to an FFL in your state. You go do a face-to-face transaction with that FFL. Fill out a 4473. Do your background check, whatever the law is in your state, if you have to have one, and then you obtain your firearm face-to-face from a licensed firearm dealer in your state. It's just like you went and bought the gun from them. It's just the difference of who's making the profit off that gun. That's the only real difference. So there is no reality to the idea that buying guns offline is somehow skirting the face-to-face buying or the background checks, etc. It's just not a reality. But people don't care about reality quite often. They care about what they perceive as reality. And the Republicans are not doing a good job of defending online gun sales. It's like they have no will to defend them. And I just don't think they see it as a big thing because I think the Republicans would also like to see our supply chains wrecked. Because let's face it, like I said, a lot of people don't have access to gun shops. A lot of these big gun shops that are doing very well with their online gun sales, if that's taken away from them with the stroke of a pen, a lot of those will go bankrupt. They have employees, overhead, stock, etc. that they have set up based on their current business model. If their business model suddenly changes, that could spell bankruptcy, insolvency, and closing for a lot of those. So by just banning online gun and ammo sales, not only do they get a feather in their cap from the far left, but they do something that I think all politicians want, and that is they disrupt the supply of guns to us, the consumer, the citizens. And that's what they want. How many times have you said, wow, there's no way I can ever get this gun where I live because no gun shops carry it and they don't want to order it. So I got it offline. That's when online gun sales really come in to play and come in handy for the consumer. Now, like I say, I've always been someone who said many years ago, support your local gun shop, because when they get rid of online gun sales, you're going to need that local gun shop. Even if it costs you a little more to buy your guns there and your ammo there, do it. You want that source. You want that point of transaction that you can get what you need. But, that fell on deaf ears quite often. But now here we are in a situation that I foresaw several years ago where this is something that could go away. And don't make the mistake of thinking that the Republicans are going to put a lot of effort or political clout into fighting this, because I really don't think they would. I don't think we can trust them. We put our trust in them too many times. So right now, the one thing I want to tell everyone to watch out for, pay attention to, contact your local gun organizations, contact your federal representatives, your senators, your congressmen, and talk to them about this, about online gun sales. Make sure that they know that they can't use the excuse of ignorance when it comes down to the fact that online gun sales are no different than buying a gun at your local store. There's just one more step in the process. Make sure they know that. That way, if they don't fight, they can't use ignorance as an excuse. So everyone, please be vigilant. Pay attention to this. Don't get yourself worked up about things that are probably not likely to happen, like big anti-gun legislation. Pay attention to this. This is where I think we need to center most of our energy right now. It's where I think we need to pay the most attention, and it's where I think we can do the most good if we fight back now instead of waiting for it to happen. So like I said, let your senators and your congressmen know that this is something that we're watching. All right, now let's move on to another segment here of the show where I want to answer a viewer question. Now, before I do that, though, let me remind everyone out there that pretty much every topic on this show can be viewer suggested. Just send me an email to shootingleftofcenter@gmail.com, and in the subject line, put Inside Guns. That way I can look at that. If you've got something you think I need to cover, I can do that. So send those emails over. I'll try to cover your topics. But for now, let's read this email from a viewer. All right, now let's get to the viewer question of the day. This question comes from a viewer, Scott H. He says, Yankee, you have had legal weed up there for a few years now. Have there been any problems related to firearms? I'm just curious if there will ever be a time to remove that from the Form 4473. I drive a truck, so none for me due to random drug tests to maintain a CDL. I think it's ridiculous that weed is a no-no, but pill poppers and alcoholics are fine. Well, you know what, Scott H., I agree 100%. We have had legalized weed here for a long time, and although I personally do not partake because I'm too much of a control freak, I don't like the feeling of being high. Never understood why some people like it. But I have no problem with it. I have no issue about it. No, I don't want my kids doing it until they're adults. But as far as an adult person choosing to use marijuana, I have no issue with it. I find alcohol far more dangerous than marijuana in pretty much every circumstance. And no, there is no evidence whatsoever that alcohol is a gateway drug. In fact, there's far more evidence that alcohol is a gateway drug. People do stupid things when they're drunk. So I do not have a problem with weed. And as far as legally, and have we seen any issues with weed use in this state as far as firearms are concerned? Absolutely not. Because most people who buy firearms or who choose to legally smoke marijuana are mature, responsible people, like most people are. Most people aren't monsters. Most people aren't just completely, irresponsible. So I feel that most people, if you can drink a couple of beers and still be a responsible person, you can smoke a joint or whatever they do nowadays, edibles, whatever, and still be a responsible person. I think most of us know that, hey, if I'm going to get high, I should probably take my gun off and put it on my nightstand and then go back in the living room and get high. Just like I would think most people who say, I'm going to tie one on tonight, say, go take my gun off, go sit it on my nightstand, and then I'm going to start pounding back shots. Most of us, like I said, are responsible, And the government telling us what we can put in our body and what we can't is something that I'm not a big proponent of. And plus, like I said, with marijuana, there's no reason. This started under Nixon to just demonize hippies and give them a reason to put people who are against the administration in jail. Had nothing to do with health or safety or anything like that. It was all political, and it's been a moral stance ever since then. People choosing to plant their flag on the hill of Jesus said don't smoke joints or something. I don't know what their point is. But no, the short answer to your question is we have not had any problems. And I think that's because, like I said, most people are responsible enough to know how to handle the decisions they make and the things they choose to do. So no problems here, and I don't foresee any in the future. All right, as you just saw, now it is time in the show for gun talk, a time I want to take in every show to talk about a gun that I find interesting, or a manufacturer that I think is doing something right now, or just something I think you might want to look at. And what I want to talk about today is something that sort of pains me to say because of my own personal feelings about the ownership of this company, but it's a gun from Springfield Armory, and it is the Springfield XDS 2.0 OSP. The reason I want to point this gun out to people is because it is a very nice little gun. When it comes to carry, I've always liked these guns. They're not anything I would choose because I don't like polymer small guns, but a lot of people do. It's a lot of people's carry of choice. And the reason I wanted to point this gun out is I think they've done something very right. They've put an optic on this gun, a reflex red dot optic on this gun, and they've done it in the best way I've seen a gun manufacturer do yet for a small gun right out of the block. They have chosen not only a slim sight to fit the profile of the gun, but it comes from the manufacturer co-witnessed. It has a rear sight, a channel in the red dot sight, and a front sight that can still allow the gun to be co-witnessed with the iron sights and the red dot. That way, if the red dot ever fails you, you're still good to go. So I just wanted to give this gun a little nod for doing it right, because right now I think there's no excuse for guns to not be available with the option of putting a red dot on them and with the option of co-witnessing, because no one yet wants to completely trust their electronic on their carry gun. But with this gun, you don't have to. Like I said, you have that co-witness option. So I thought this gun just deserved a little bit of attention today. All right, we've come to the final segment of the show today, the legislative alert. This is a little segment where I take an email from a viewer who lets me know what's going on in their state or their area regarding gun legislation. And today's alert comes from Cobalt Flame. And what they want to let everyone know is that they are trying to pass constitutional carry once again in Texas. There is new legislation being introduced to pass constitutional carry. So if you live in the state of Texas, contact your representative, your local state representative, and find out what's going on, who's proposing this, how far is it getting, and if they are going to support it. Ask them that. Make sure that you let them know you want them to support it. Also, contact your local gun rights organizations. Find out what's going on, if they're involved, and how you could possibly help. Because like I said, the year 2021 is going to be a great year for gun rights. We're going to have so many victories. But the only way that can happen is if you get involved. And if you live in the state of Texas, right here is just one way you can get involved. All right, there you have it, the very first episode of Inside Guns with the Yankee Marshal, which is me, sort of. Didn't go down without a hitch. We had some technical difficulties there, but not so bad for our first attempt. Like I said, this show is going to continue to evolve. It's going to start including new things, different things going to be done in different ways as we find what works and what doesn't. I hope everyone will be patient with me. I hope everyone will come to enjoy the show, and I hope I bring you some useful information, and I hope keep people's spirits up, because I believe when people stay positive, when they keep their spirits up, but they keep their eyes open, they can actually do a lot of good. And I think, like I said, this is going to be a year where we achieve a lot. So please bear with me over the next, I don't know how long it'll take to get this dog and pony show into something that looks semi-professional. Might take a little while, but like I said, I'm willing to put the work in if you're willing to listen. So like I say, hopefully we'll get better, and hopefully we'll do great things. Only time will tell. But for now, it is what it is. But hopefully if we put some effort into it, what it will be is something better.